Hello and welcome to Saturday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, and I think a debut on the channel for a constructor going by the name of ElChiglia, which I didn't know what a ciglia was. I think it's Italian. I think oh no, I might even be wrong about that. Anyway, I typed it into Google and ElChiglia apparently means the keel. So I'm wondering if this is sort of like the steering apparatus or the guide. So ElChiglia is going to guide us through a puzzle called Shining Loop, which you can see has got sun and moon symbols in the grid. And this is a loop drawing puzzle with obviously some Sudoku overtones as well. So a quick reminder, if you want to draw a loop in your puzzle, make sure you turn on the pen tool. So you click on the cog icon and enable the pen tool, and that will give you the option of creating beautiful loops in the grid, like so, should you so wish to. Now this has an enormous rating on Logic Masters Germany, and it's been recommended to us a number of times, and apparently it's part of a series of loop puzzles that ElChiglia has created. So if you do enjoy this one, there are lots more in the series, and I hope I'm going to enjoy it, because we might have a look at more puzzles from the series. We shall see. Anyway, I've got a few things to mention before we kick off today. Firstly, a shout out to Sven, because Sven is the programmer who makes this software that we use in the videos, and I'm sure many of you are always playing puzzles in Sudoku Pad, which is what this software is called. But Sven alerted me to the fact last night that since he's been keeping records, which isn't for that long, it's only a couple of months, Sven's been sort of keeping records of how many solves have been logged. It's already over 5 million different solves of puzzles on Sudoku Pad. It's just incredible. And look at, there are 24,000 different puzzles have been solved just in that period of time. And the most solved puzzle is Dorlier's Rising Circles, which was an incredible, very easy puzzle. It's sort of a 5-minute puzzle, but it was such a clever idea. That has nearly 25,000 solves. So I'm thrilled about this, because it means that a lot of the puzzles that we show on the channel, you guys are actually attempting and finishing, which is absolutely fantastic. So well done, everybody, and well done in particular to Sven. I'll try and remember to put a link to Sudoku Pad on the screen right now. Next, thanks also to those of you who have been over to the Discord server to investigate the messages of Hildegard. Hildegard started messaging me a couple of days ago about the dangers of AI, and I think many of you have discovered that Hildegard has more to say on many subjects. There have been a lot of messages about Hildegard, and I advise anybody who is interested in puzzle solving, especially, group puzzle solving perhaps, to check out what's going on over in the Puzzle Hunt discussion section of the Discord server right now. I'm saying no more, but you really should go there. Other news, next Wednesday, I think, is the 1st of November. So if you're a patron of the channel, keep an eye on your inboxes then, because at 4 p.m. we are releasing a brand new Sudoku hunt. This one comes from DiMono. Again, it's a sort of novella type idea, where to access the later chapters of the story, you have to solve a puzzle each time. It's really cool. So that's coming on the 1st of November, very soon now, and a few birthdays to do as well. Let's do some birthdays. I'm going to start with happy birthday to Edward's daughter, who has turned 1 today. Now, Edward, I don't know your daughter's name, but I was intrigued to hear that you've watched 2 videos every single day of her life. Often apparently to fall asleep to. I shouldn't think you need much help falling asleep if you have a 1-year-old daughter. But anyway, Edward's daughter, happy birthday. I guess you won't be having chocolate cake. Probably still a little bit young. Maybe Edward could have some on your behalf. Next, Mark. You have turned 62 today, and I know this because your son Michael wrote to us. I think your son Michael is in Greenville, South Carolina. And Mark, I only know that you're 11 hours from there, but I don't know whether that's walking or on a Concorde. I'm not sure. Probably not on a Concorde. It's hard to catch Concordes nowadays. But anyway, Mark, many happy returns. I hope you have a brilliant day. And then Ryan, it's your birthday today, and I know this because your wife Amy wrote to us and asked us to wish you many happy returns. That's obviously from Amy, from William, and from Ben. And apparently Ryan watches every day to decompress. Well, I think a few people do that. It is a very good way to lose yourself for some amount of time at least. Get involved in puzzles. It is a very enjoyable thing to do. And with that said, now I am going to do my favourite hobby, which is to solve puzzles. I'm going to have a look at Shining Loop by ElChiglia. These are the rules. We've got normal Sudoku rule supplies. We have to put the digits 1 to 9 once each in every row, column, and 3 by 3 box. Not an auspicious start. And then we have to draw a single non-intersecting loop into the grid by connecting centres of orthogonally adjacent cells. Let's just stop there and check that we all understand what that means. So we've got to move from the centre of cell to the centre of cell, and an orthogonal connection means not that, that's because these two cells here are not orthogonally connected. They only touch at a point at their corner here. So these two cells are orthogonally connected, and therefore we could move the loop from this cell to this cell like that. And we're only allowed to draw one loop, so we can't end up with two loops in the grid, and the loop can't intersect itself. So what does that mean? We couldn't create a loop that did something like that and claim that that was a single loop, because that loop has crossed over, and that's too naughty for words. Now, our loop must fulfill the following rules. 1. The loop enters every cage exactly once, and I think the whole grid is covered with cages. So we have to go into each cage exactly once. Within a cage, the loop only passes through cells of the same parity. But when the loop crosses cage borders, the parity of the loop switches. This is a beautiful idea. So as we're drawing our loop and it moves from cage to cage, when it's in a cage, it retains parity as it moves from cell to cell. So say these two cells are on the loop, then these two cells would have the same parity. We don't know what that is. And then when we move to this cage, we'd flip parity. So then these two cells would have different parity, etc., etc. And we're going to have to keep track of how parity oscillates as the loop moves from cage to cage. Now, 3. Within each cage, the loop must pass through at least one moon or sun. Okay. Each symbol, moon or sun, stands for a different parity. Each cell containing that symbol must have the respective parity. Which symbol refers to which parity must be determined by the solver. So we're going to have to work out. Now, is that implying that... yes, I was just wondering whether there was a possibility that they stood for the same parity, but it does say they stand for different parities. So if we worked out that the moon was even, then the sun would be odd everywhere that they appear. I think that's what that means. Digits within cages cannot repeat, that's normal killer Sudoku, and must sum to the small clue in the top left corner of the cage if given. Right, yes, so we can see that some cages do have totals, so that what that's telling us is that those 6 cells sum to 28. But some cages don't have totals, like that one I'm seeing, that doesn't have a total at all. So all this cage is here for, I presume, I suppose it's for the loop as well, but it's also telling us that those 3 cells are not repeated there, for example, because if this was a 1 and it repeated there, then we'd have a repeated digit in a cage, and that's not allowed by the rules either. So do have a go. This apparently is a brilliant puzzle. The way to play is to click the link under the video as usual, but now I get to play. Let's get cracking. I say that without really much idea of how to get cracking. Let me just check the rules again. Did it say? I thought it said that when we went in a cage, we had to pick up a symbol. but maybe I misread that. Each cell... oh yeah, it was the third rule, wasn't it? Within each cage, the loop must pass through at least one sun or moon. Yeah, okay, so we are being told that that cell is part of the loop, because this cage only has one symbol in it. So we can instantly start drawing our loop. Now we're going to have to think about the loop colour, aren't we? Now we're going to be parity shading because we've got odds and evens going on. Now I'll do odds cells in orange, I'll do blue cells in even, because I think... blue cells in even? I'll do even cells in blue, because I think orange and blue are our most colourblind friendly colours. So I need a loop colour that's going to stand out well against orange and blue. Maybe that is still green. Let's just have a look at that. I'm just going to highlight these cells in... It's actually not bad, is it? I think that's probably better than black, because a black line is going to clash with the 3x3 box outlines, and I think it must be better than red, because red against the orange I find difficult to see. So I'm going to go with green. Right, so let's do that. And we know that this cell is on the loop, so we know that the loop must do that. Oh, actually, I'm going to mention something else which might be important in this puzzle, because as I was reading the rules, I had a thought about country road rules. Now, you may, if you've never heard of a country road logic puzzle, you may wonder of what I speak, but it is it's a loop drawing logic problem that doesn't involve Sudoku at all. But it does involve it does sort of involve cage shapes. Now the key with country road that you have to remember, and that's present in this puzzle, is that you can only enter a cage once. So what that means is, let's look at this 28 cage. Let's imagine the loop did that. Let's imagine, oh hang on, that's immediately going to be breaking. Let's imagine the loop did this. Then we could never do that. And the reason is that if you look at the borders of the 28 cage now, they've been cut 3 times. In other words, we haven't just visited the 28 cage once here. We visited it once in this domino, and then we visited it again when we came in here. And that's against the rules. So what we do know is that when we go into... when we go into a cage, we have to stay in the cage for as long as we ever want to live in that cage. And then once we exit it, we don't go back into it. Now, that might even be interesting straight away in this bottom left-hand corner, because what that tells us... what it tells us is we can't do that. Because if we did do that, we've now done our entering of this 2x2 cage, the 23 cage. So if I do that, I've instantly broken the puzzle, which means I have to close the loop in that cage in order to obey the rules. Doesn't matter how I close the loop. However I close the loop, I've got too small a loop, and we don't want our loops to be too small. So I think I have to do that, and that's going to allow me to note some things about the loop. For example, the other thing I've got to do... there's actually a lot to think about here. Let me mull this over for a second or two. I have to pick up a symbol in this cage. It's not labeled, but this cage. I have to pick up a symbol in it, and I know I'm going into this cell. So how could I pick up this symbol without picking up that symbol? And the answer is I can't, can I? I have to take this symbol, because otherwise I'm going to leave the cage and then re-enter it, which is against the rules. But the loop is only allowed to visit one parity in this cage. So I think I have to take this square, and then I can't take that square, ever. This square is not on the loop, because we know that the moon and the sun are of different parities. So if the loop went into the moon, if the loop went into the moon in this cage, it would have also gone through the sun, and it would have touched two different parities in the same cage, which is not allowed. So the other thing I'm seeing here is in this 23 cage, I have to take the sun, because there is only a sun. But if I now, but that means I can't. It means lots of things. It means because I can't exit this. I can't exit from a sun cage into a sun cage, because that would imply I've gone from the same parity to the same parity. So I can't do something like that, can I? So I'm going to have to do that. I'm going to have to do that. And the next cage that is visited by the loop that's in row 7, column 2 has to be a moon. Well, so it's not this one. It's not this one, because that's a sun cage. In fact, I think I'm doing this wrong. Okay, I've had a change of thought. I think what I have to do to start the puzzle, because it's getting confusing or it's getting complicated, is I'm going to label all the cells that must be on the loop, and those are going to be symbols that are unique to their cage. Look, there's loads of them. Yeah, this one I don't know. This 17 cage has 2 symbols in it. Oh, look, this 28 cage just has 1 symbol in it, so that's got to be on the loop. That cage has 2 symbols. That's got 2 symbols. That's got 1 symbol. This has got 2 symbols. That's got 1 symbol. That's got 2 symbols. Right, has that helped? Well, yes. Okay, so I'm going away from where it was complicated. I'm going up here now, because what we know is that the 20 cage has the loop cells in the 20 cage have parity consistent with sunny digits. And the same is true of the 25 cage. Any loop cells in the 25 cage are sunny digits. So we can never go from the 20 cage into the 25 cage directly, because the parity won't change. And that's beautiful, because that's created an alleyway down here through which we must travel. And in fact, we're forced into the moon. Right, so that's good. We've gone from sun to moon here, which must be correct. And then we go into the moon cage up the top. And we have to go, yeah, okay, and we have to go through the moon. So we couldn't do that, or we'd have to re-enter the cage, which we're not allowed to do. You can never go from a moon cage to a moon cage. Okay. Now I'm stuck again. What do I do now? Okay, let's come back to 23 cage. I'm dancing around a bit here, forgive me. But this 23 cage, we can't go into the cage above it, because then we must close the loop. So we've only got one exit, which is into this sort of P-pentomino shaped cage here. And what that tells us is that this cage must be a moon cage. And that tells us that that cell is on the loop and this cell is not on the loop. And that is beautiful, because now, how do I get out of this moon cage? When I say the moon, I mean this cage here. How do I get out of it? I can't go out of it upwards, because that's going to be it will be into a sun cage, which is fine, but the loop will then only occupy these cages. It won't be allowed to, it will close in this cage here, because we can't leave it and come back into it again. So we can never go up there, and that means we have to go through that cul-de-sac, or not that cul-de-sac, that little Suez Canal that we've built here. That's the only way through. Oh, but now... Oh, that's beautiful. Right. So now the next question is, how do we get... Do we do a rinky-dink to travel out of the 23 cage into the P-pentomino cage? The answer is no, we don't do a rinky-dink, because if we did do a rinky-dink and do that, which is in theory possible, Now we have a problem in the 23 cage because we have to assign a parity of either oddness or evenness to 4 digits and arrive at an odd number. Well, 4 digits, whether they're all odd or all even, will add up to an even number. So that we do know rinky-dinks. So we have to just directly go across there. And what are we learning now? We're learning that, no, it works. Okay, so we don't yet know whether the sun is odd or even because it works. We have 3 cells there. If they were odd, they would add up to an odd number. And once you add well, then that would have to be, oh yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so something I hadn't appreciated, but is true. Yeah, well, it's obvious actually. This is always of a different parity to those 3, whether these are even or odd. Okay, let's look at this square, because this square has to take the sun before it leaves the cage. And then it must go into a moon cage. And the only cage it can go into is this one here. So that must be a moon cage, and that cell is not on the loop. All right, here is a point that's probably a little bit complicated, but I'm going to make it because I thought of it. This cell is now not on the loop, I think. Because if this cell was on the loop, then because we can only go into this 32 cage once, we'll either be doing that, which actually doesn't work at all, or we'll be doing that. But the reason that doesn't work is that would cause these 5 digits to have the same parity, which would tell us the parity. And that parity would be odd, because in Sudoku there are only 5 of the odd digits. There are 4 even digits. Now, I know that the 5 odd digits add up to 25 in Sudoku. 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9 sum to 25. So these would add up to 25. But this cage adds up to 32, and that would require this to be a 7, but that's odd as well. And that would repeat a digit in a cage, and what's more, it would suggest that the sun and the moon were the same parity, which we're told they're not. So, this cell is off the loop. I mean, that's a super complicated deduction. But now... No, that's okay, isn't it? So now... I was wondering whether I could force this not to be on the loop, but I don't think I can do that. If that's on the loop, I have to go up and then do a rinky-dink. Okay. Okay, I can't see anything obvious immediately now. Yeah, okay, so now I'm totally stuck. I don't know. I don't quite know what to focus on here. I suppose... hang on. I've got 4 digits in this 20 cage of the same... well, they're of the same parity, aren't they? So this is either all of the even digits... Oh, I thought that wasn't going to work with the 70. Oh, can you use the secret? Wow, there's loads of stuff going on here. They could all be even if all of these are odd. The 4 even digits in Sudoku do add up to 20, or they're all odd and they don't include a 5, and there'll be 1, 3, 7, and 9. But I wonder if the secret is going to help us here. Now, the secret is something I tell only my very favourite people, but if you're still watching this video, of course you're one of my favourite people, so I'll definitely tell you what the secret is. Just keep it to yourself. The secret is that a complete column of a Sudoku, indeed a complete row of a Sudoku or a complete box of a Sudoku, because of the rules of Sudoku, contains the digits 1 to 9 once each. And the digits 1 to 9 sum to 45. So I know this column sums to 45. in total, but I also know that these 4 cells are 20 and those are 17. So these 7 cells sum to 37, which means these 2 cells sum up to 8. Now 8 is an even number, so these have the same parity. So I don't know what that means. No, okay. That's probably, it might be a trick we can do with that, but I don't know what it is. This is definitely on the loop. Maybe we can... Oh, hang on. Hang on, this is obvious. Right, this is a moon cage, and this is a moon cage. So these, I can't go from this cage into this cage. So I'm going to have to, from this cage, I have to go into this cage. So this sun is on the loop. And that moon is off the loop, therefore. And to get out of this cage, then, to get out of this cage down here, given I can't go into this cage, I must go into this cage. It's tricky, this, though, because I don't think I can see, or at least I can't see, exactly how I perform that maneuver. I mean, I think I'm saying I definitely go from this cage. Yeah, maybe I have to turn directly actually into this cage, because if I go down and then in, I have to take the sun, and then I can never get out of this moon cage. So the only way I can do it is to do that. But then do I do that or do I do that? I don't know. So maybe what we have to do here, actually, I keep changing my mind about the right way to notate this. I'm going to indicate, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do that. And red lines are not loop lines. But I'm trying to indicate how the loop is moving through the grid. So yeah, we can't. You see, I don't think we know where this one goes yet. I know it probably goes into this one, but why does it not go into that one? What about this one in the corner? Okay, the one in the corner is a moon cage, so it doesn't go from moon cage to moon cage. So the one in the corner, again, we don't know how it does it, but it goes. It only touches 2 cages, so it must do something like that. Now this, okay, right, and then this 22 cage is a sun cage that can't go into a sun cage, so it must go into that moon cage there. So something like this is going on, isn't it? We're building a heart in the top of the grid. And this is a sun cage. So we can't go there because that's going to close the loop. So that's not allowed. Oh, no. I thought it might have given me a corner, but it hasn't. I thought it might give me a corner of the loop. Right, but what we can't do, interestingly, yes, I know, never, ever speak to me at a party, unless you want to be bored out of your brains. But what that means is that, look, we can't go from this cage here, this one, can't go from this cage directly into this cage like that. That is not a valid loop segment, because that would go from a sun cage into a sun cage, so that's not allowed. Which is fine. Oh, I see. Right. So now a good question to ask might be, how does this cage, where does it go now? And the interesting thing I've now noticed is that you don't go from this cage into this cage. And the reason you don't do that is that this loop segment is now totally isolated, because we're in a this cage would become a moon cage. This is a moon cage. We couldn't go from here to here, and obviously you can't go from here to here without having 3 entrances into this cage here. So what we in fact must do somehow, we don't know how we do it, is that right. This is incredibly clever, actually. This is incredibly clever. Now I'm going to take another look at this cage. Let's just focus on that cage for a moment. So we've sort of approximately built how the loop's moving. How does the loop move through this 17 cage? Now, the great thing is this red line here, this red X here. And we've entered and exited this cage somehow from here and down to here. So this cage is out of bounds, so we can do all of those are absolutely forced, all of these are absolutely forced. And now how many legitimate entrances and exits are there from the purple cage? There's got to be an entrance and an exit. Now it only touches 2 cages. It touches that one and it touches this one. So it must move through this, and we know that this one is a moon cage, and that tells us that the purple cage is a sun cage. Not only that, we now know exactly how the loop moves through the purple cage, because it must move. It must move through the sun in it, and it can't move through the moon in it. So it does that, and now. Okay, so now this is a sun cage. So this cage now is a moon cage and not a sun cage. So look, we have to go through there. We have to go there. Oh, I've got a horrible feeling I'm going to close the loop here in a bad way. This we've got to go through there. Now, let's look at this cage for a second or two. We can't. I think we've got to go into this cage. I'm just worried I've gone into this cage as well. And that's a moon cage. Oh, I see. And that's a sun cage. So it's fine. It's fine. It's just fine. So what we do is this cage, the only valid exit we've got is into this cage. So we don't take this cell. This cell is not on the loop. But I don't actually know how we go into this cage. So that's sort of a red thing. And then we can't now go into this cage, into the 25 cage from the 16 cage, or we've built a small loop. So from the 16 cage, we must go up and left into the, I don't know what this cage here. So this cage here, then we have to go down into this cage, otherwise we're going to isolate loop bits and pieces. So this is all forced. But that's not forced. So we don't know whether we do a rinky-dink. So I don't think we know whether we do a rinky-dink. Got it. I've got it. By the way, let me just stop here and say this is a shining loop, ElChiglia. This is absolutely brilliant because, well, this has been fascinating to do this much. But look now, that is a 16 cage, and all 3 of its cells are loop, so they all have the same parity. So how could this be an odd cage? It can't be. If these are all odd, they would add up to an odd number. So these are, so I've totally messed it up. These are definitely even numbers, and therefore the moon is even. And that is going to allow us to do, I think, a lot of shading all of a sudden. So moons are all even in the puzzle. Wherever we see a moon, we can evenify it. I don't know if that's all of them, but oh no, it's not. That's some of them. So suns are odd wherever they appear. Like that. And that one, actually, I missed one, unsurprisingly. And therefore, right, so therefore we can extrapolate from this. Whenever we have green loop, we know it's definitive. Therefore, that cell is definitely even, because we mustn't change parity within a cage. Oh, look, all of these are now odd. That's even. This must be odd. We don't know how the loop's moving along the red thingies, so we can't assume anything there. That must be even. This must be odd. This must be even. These two are both odd. So this is even, because we knew that they were of different parity. Oh, look, in fact, we've got 5 odd digits in box 7, so that's even. Oh, okay. What about this 17 then? So that's odd by the parity thingy. These two cells are both even, aren't they? Because this is an even cage. Yeah. Okay, so now look at row 4. I've got 4 even digits, so that's odd. That's odd. That's annoying. That's annoying, because that doesn't tell us how this red line is structured. It could go in there, couldn't it? That's fine. Oh, but hang on. No, that's not fine. No, I'm wrong. I'm wrong, because I've already got 4 odd digits. This is very clever. Wow. Okay, let me show you. We have to decide how we get from this cell here into this 25 cage. Now, if we did go here and up, then we know this squell, we know this squell is definitely odd, because it's on the loop and it's in a sunny cage. But the next cell, which would have to be here on the loop or here, because we have to close the loop, is also going to be odd. So I'm going to have 6 odd digits at least in box 3. So we can't, so that is not valid. So we must go up. And then this, right, so this is now odd. And that's all the odds in the box. So these are both even, and we know how this is brilliant. It's brilliant because the parity is actually now determining how the loop moves. Right, now hang on, we can do more here, can't we? This is an odd cage. That's all the odds in this row, so these are both even. Okay, I don't know what we can do with that. Probably something very profound. Let me just think about this for a second or two. Okay, let's look at, coming back to column 1. There are now, well actually we know what these digits are, because they're 4 odd digits that sum to 20, so they can't include a 5, because the 5 odd digits sum to 25. But how on earth could we make this 17 cage work without an odd number? You can't. 17's odd. There needs to be an odd number in there. And that tells us those bottom 2 cells are even, which doesn't... does it do something or not? We know there's a 5 actually in one of those squares. One of those squells. I don't like that pencil marking across the box, but that is true. That's a green cell in a sunny cage, so that's odd. Oh, I've got 4 even digits in this row, so that's odd. Right. No. I don't know. Well, okay. That is still useful, isn't it? Because we can now see that in terms of how the red line, how we get from this cage to this cage, we can't now cross this boundary, so that we can replace that with that. That's got to be true, but we probably don't know whether it does that or that. Gosh, I've got all sorts of things going on here now. Oh, this is... Okay, here's a really simple deduction. How... we can't change parity within this cage, and we have to take the sun in, so then we have to go out, and therefore that must be even. No, we haven't quite got the even total in this column. But we have to take this one. So I can't now come into this square. If the loop turns into this cell, it will then, these two will have to both be even, and I have 5 evens in the column. So this is not loop, which means the loop must go there and then turn. So those are even. We can get rid of some of this red thing. We have to go like that. Oh, and now, well, there's all sorts of things going on now. We now know we're going into the 22 cage, so we must go there directly, because we can't take any more even cells in the 28, because all 4 evens have gone. Those have to be odd by parity. All 4 evens have gone in the column, so that's odd. These two are odd by just completing the parity of this box. Oh, I thought I got all the parity done in this column now. I think I'm going to get rid of some of the red, actually. The red is I think, superfluous to what we need, and it's distracting me. Right, here is a lovely point. How does the loop move from the top left cage into this cage? From this cage to this cage. Now, if we go like that, because we have to take the moon, we'd have to do that, and we have to get out. That's 5 even digits in box 1. So we can't do that. We can't make that junction. So that tells us this is a corner of the loop. And then we go out. But don't I have the same issue now? Oh, no, it's much easier. Oh, I think it's easier. That cell is odd by parity of this column. And I have to get from the 32 into the 22. So I must come through there then. That must be even. That must be odd. And then we can sort of slalom our way down there and then close it. That's absolutely... Have I done the loop? No, I haven't done the loop. I've not closed it down here. But we have made a lot of progress all of a sudden. And, oh, look, row 5. We've done the parity. We can make those both odd. Come on. Where now? Where have we got some easy wins? I don't know. There's probably some maths and things we can do at some stage. Like, there is a bit. Those 2 digits have to add up to 8. Because that 28 cage has 4 even digits in it. We know the even digits add up to 20. So this is either 1, 7 or 3, 5. Is that worth noting? It might be. Okay. Don't have it. I mean, I've got no cage total there and no cage total there. But I've got 4 even digits in column 6, so these are both odd. And I've got 4 even digits in column 5. Sorry, I just haven't been looking at there. Now I've got 5 odd digits in box 2, so that's even. I've got 4, that's got to be odd to give me 5 odd digits in box 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is one of each, is it? But can we do that by reference to the rows? Maybe somehow. Oh, or this column 1, 2, 3. No, 3 versus 4 is the count. Where's my phone buzzing? That's okay. This row. Yes, those are both even. So now this column tells us that this is now odd. This is now odd. Didn't we know what that was? Yeah, we know that's a 5 then. So these add up to 12, and they've got to be even. So they've got to be 4 and 8. This is so sick. This is 2, 6. So that's 4 or 8. That's 4 or 8. I think I might in a moment need to... Oh, well, yeah, this is great. So how do we we're in an odd cage and we can't go into that cell, so the loop must go there. And then it's in an even cage, so it must close. Now, have I closed the loop now? I think it might be easy to see if I get rid of the circles. I think I have closed it, but I'm not certain. Let's just get rid of all the circles and all the x's. And see that it looks like it's a single loop. I think it looks right. Well, not necessarily right, but it looks like it's continuous to me, orthogonal from cell to cell. We know that this is an even number now, so that's all the evens for this box, so that's odd. That completes the odds for the bottom, so that's even, which must mean that's odd. And there we have parity shaded the grid. And now all we have to do, he says, slightly worried about how difficult this will be, but all we have to do, in theory at least, is to complete the digits. We have got one digit. 5 has got to be in one of those squares in box 3, and 5 can't repeat in a cage. So there's a 5 in one of these two squares in box 6. Yeah, that's probably not enough, is it? Okay, these two squares by Sudoku, let's get rid of the x's, sorry. These two squares are a 2-6 pair. So these are a 4-8 pair. Oh, I see. Right, and I've got a 32 cage here that now has 20's worth of even digits in it. So it needs another 12's worth of odd digits. And 5 is here, so this can't be a 5-7 pair, so that's a 3-9 pair. Okay, is that useful? Maybe. Or maybe not. I don't know where to look, really. I'm not sure. Oh, 3 even digits that add up to 16. Well, they can't include the 4 then. So that's easy. That's a 4 there. Okay, so 4 is... Oh, 4 I can place in box 8. 4 is in one of these two squares in box 5. These squares have got to be 2, 6, 8 now. 4, that 4 sees that cell, which seems to be labelled. Why is that labelled with 4 or 8? Oh, I see. That's just stuff I've done in Sudoku stuff. So, okay, so these are 2, 4, 6, and that's not 4. So 4 is in the 25 cage here, and 5 is in the 25 cage. So 9's worth of digits are in 2 cells of the 25 cage. The other 3 digits add up to 16. One of them is even and is either 2 or 6. Well, okay, that's useful. That digit that's in here is not 2 with the 4. If that's a 2-4 pair, we've got 11 in 3 cells, which means we need 14 in the other 2. And we can't have 5, 9 because that would repeat the 5. And we can't have 6, 8 because you can't put an 8 in this cage at all. So this is not 2, 4. It must be 4, 6, which means that's 2. That's 2. So this is 6. So there's a 6 in one of those and a 6 in one of those. And that means, look, we could ask where 6 goes in this row. It seems to only have one place, which means this is a 2. Which means 2 is in one of these squares. 2 is in one of these squares. And this is a 2-8 pair, which means that's a 6. By Sudoku out of absolutely nowhere. That's a 6 by Sudoku out of nowhere. This is a 6. This is a 2. So 2 is there. That's 4. That's 8. This is so ridiculously clever. That's a 2. That's a 2. These squares are a 6-8 pair. So what can we do with that? That's a 4-8 pair, is it? There's almost certainly more stuff we can do here. Where's it going to be? I don't know. Okay, this is a 4-8 pair. Is that resolvable somehow? I don't know. I almost feel... Oh yeah, look, there's a 4-8 pair that's appeared in this row. So we can ask where 2 goes in this row. It's got to go there, which means this is a 4 or an 8. I do wonder, maybe it's the 23 cage there. Maybe that could... I'm just trying to think about how we're ever going to disambiguate the bottom of this grid from an even digits perspective. And I might be wrong, but I feel like it might be this cage that does it. And at some point we're going to have to turn our attention to odd digits. And I've got no idea where to look for those. What can we do with odd digits? We have a 5 in the grid. Right, so there is a 5 in the 23 cage, I notice, therefore. Is that helpful? And one thing, I don't think we completed the thinking on the 25 cage, which I just worked out 2 couldn't go in it. I didn't think about the effect of 6 being in it. So we've got 15 now, so we need 10 more. So that square is... Oh, this is not useful. This square is 1, 3, 7 or 9, I think. Yeah, sorry, I'll put it in. But that's not a helpful deduction. So it's got to be something else. I wonder what. Ah. Those 3 digits add up to 11, and they're all odd. So they must have 1 in them, and then 2 digits that add up to 10. 2 odd digits that add up to 10 that don't include 1 and 9. So this is 1, 3, 7 in some order. Is that doable? Oh no, come on. Okay, 5 in this row is over here. That's a tiny deduction. I don't know if it's going to help us. Probably not. Oh, hang on, that's a 22 cage. It's all odd. Oh, that's it. Well, it's not it, but it's useful. Because if that's 4 odd numbers that add up, that are all different, that add up to 22, they can't include the 3, so that's a 3. Oh, this is good. This is good because this cage, didn't we work out those added up to 8? So that's a 5 to make that work. So that's a 5. Now these 2 have to add up to 10. That's not useful. Okay. Hang on, can we do more with 5s? Ah, maybe. 5 is not there, so 5 is in one of these 2. So 5 is here in row 4. Okay, so 5 is in one of those 2. That is helpful, actually. Look at this 5. There's a 5 in one of those 3 squares in box 8. So we can now ask the question, where does 5 go in column 4? It can't be in these squares because of the pencil mark, and it can't be in that square. And it's not there for some reason, so it's got to be here. Which means there's got to be a 5 here. We've basically... Well, we've done a lot of 5s, although we haven't quite done the bottom of the grid, have we? Can we put a 4 in here with a 5? That would give us 9. The other 2 digits would have to add up to 14. And we couldn't use 5, 9, and we couldn't use 6, 8, so that doesn't work. So that's got to be an 8. That's got to be a 2, that's an 8, that's a 2, that's a 6, that's a 6, that's a 4 in the corner. No song for you. We do have a small chance of 3 in the corner up in one of those squares, which are both odd. Right, so if this is 8, then these add up to... Oh, we've got... Well, so effectively we've got 13, haven't we? So we need 10 more from odd numbers. Oh, that's not useful. There's 2 options. These add up to 10. They're either 1, 9 or 3, 7. Both options seem to be available. Okay, don't know what to do with that. Really don't touch. Oh, hang on. Oh, I thought I was going to get the 5, but no, I didn't see this pencil mark, which doesn't allow me to get it. Alright, so there must be some more maths to do somewhere, he says, hopefully. What about those 2 digits then? We've got to, yeah, oh, that's good. These 2 digits have to add up to 12 to make this 32 cage work. We've got 20's worth of evens. We can't use 5, 7, so they're 3 and 9. Can we do something with that somehow? If they're 3 and 9, these are 1 and 7. That's hard to see. Now, what about this column then? That's become a 9, I think. We've had 3, 5, 1 and 7 in the column. That's a 9. Now, doesn't that do something? 17, 5 and 3 it must be. That's right, isn't it? No, it's not right. 5 and 1. I almost got my maths absolutely hopelessly wrong then. That's a 1-5 pair to add up. So this is now a 3-7 pair by elimination, and that's a 9. Okay, so if that's a 9, that's a 3 to add up to the 12 we need there. If this is 3, that's not 3. Now these two have to add up to 10, so that's not 7. These are 1, 7 and 9. And this square is now odd and not 1, 7 and 9 because it can't repeat, and it's not 3 either. So that digit is 5, which means these are not 5. It means this is 5, this is 1. That's not 1. That's 7. It can't be 9 either. So we get a 1-9 pair here, 3-7 pair here. This is a 1. Therefore, this is 3, 7. That's a 1. We needed a 1 in the 17 cage. We haven't put 9 into this column. Let's pop it in. That's not 9. This square is a naked single. It's odd and it's not 1 or 7. So I think it has to be 3 because it can't be 5 or 9. And that means we get left with 3's and 7's at the bottom down there. Come on. Now this is a 7 naked single. That's a 1. That's a 5. What have we not put in this? We haven't put 9 in. That's 3. That's 7. That's not 7. I don't know what this means. Oh, come on, Simon. It must be nearly finished now. 1's and 7's into these squares. That's probably resolved somehow. And 3's and 9's into these squares. So there's a 3-9 pair, if that's right, in this column. So that's got to be 7. That's 3, and that's 1. So this is 7. So if this is great. Is that right? Yeah, so this has lost its ability to be 3 or 7, so this must be a 1-9 pair now. Is that useful? Well, yeah, what it does, it means that's a 3 in the column. So this is a 9. Got it. And that's 3 in the corner. That's 3 in the spotlight, losing its religion. We found a 3 in the corner. This is a 7. Can't be a 1, so that must be a 9. That's a 9. That's a 1. Oh, and this 8 is doing the even digits. So I was thinking how we're going to do the bottom. So this is 1. This is 9. And we've got 8 here. So that's 8. That's 4. That's 4. That's 6. That's 6. That's 8. And that might be... No, I filled in those digits. That might be the... Oh no, there's no digit at all in this cell, which has got to be a 7. Is that okay? Have I finally filled in the puzzle? Don't know. Let's click tick, see if it's right. It is right. Yay! You solved the puzzle. That is an absolute banger. ElChiglia, take a bow. That was absolutely wonderful. Start to finish, everything about that is clever. I love the way that all of the constraints interacted. It is brilliant. Let me know in the comments if you had a go and how you got on. I enjoy the comments, especially when they're kind. And we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.